Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84. Now you may have seen my Asian pear video the other day where I covered all of my Asian and Nashi pears and did a little bit of pruning and tidying up on them, and now we're moving on to the repotting stage, starting with the largest one. Now this one is the one that I've had the longest. You can see it's a good sized trunk on it now. It's a Shinseiki, and I did actually repot it I think last winter, which there will be a video of in my Asian pear playlist, and kept it in the same size pot and root pruned it. But I think it's now time to go into not its forever home, but a pot that I hope it'll stay in for another 2 or 3, maybe 4 years if it's fed, and we'll see how it does. I'm hoping it's going to be a game changer. Last year the plant produced a few small fruits, but the fruits were unfortunately wrecked by codling moths. So, and I believe the way to treat that is to put a tar band around the trunk, which probably should be done now or fairly soon, because it stops the female moths from climbing up the tree. I'm not too sure if that's the only way to treat it. Now this tree is known as a pyro dwarf. It is, believe it or not, on a dwarfing rootstock, which does restrict the growth. Currently the tree in the pot is around 8 feet tall. I don't want it to get any bigger because it's hard to maintain. I won't be able to pick any fruits, and I'm only, you know, if I can get sort of half a dozen to a dozen decent fruits off it, I'd be happy. So what I'm doing, I think the plant is in a pot that I believe holds about, I'd have to look at my list, but I think it's about a 30 to 35 litre pot. So roughly about that would be about 7 imperial gallons, probably about 8 US gallons. Not really big enough for the plant long term, so I'm going to move it to a fabric pot for another number of reasons. One, the pots are a more ideal shape in that they've got more, because they're sort of more square, flat and straight sided, they should get more compost in. This is actually, believe it or not, meant to be a 95 litre pot, so that's meant to be almost 3 times the volume of that one. You wouldn't think it is from the look of it, but it'll be interesting to see how much compost it uses when I put it in. And basically what I'm attempting to do as well to save on cost is recycle potting compost. Where I've had perhaps tropical plants that have either outgrown their pots or have died from the cold, obviously I've got an awful lot of wasted compost that basically hasn't got much wrong with it. So what I like to do is recycle it, but with some if you like, refreshening. So it's not just straight out of the pots of plants that have died. What I've done is I've taken the compost and then added some bark into it, some perlite, and I'm also adding, as I pot the plants up, a small amount, a few handfuls of this granular slow release fertiliser, as that will hopefully revamp the soil enough to the point that the plants won't need too much feeding in the first summer, because one of the problems with containers is obviously firstly the nutrients leach out, but secondly they do need to be fed because the roots can't go further down into the soil. But I'm hoping that the fabric pot will be a game changer, because it will allow the roots to breathe more. They get better oxygenated in these. It's supposed to give a healthier root system, and also because they're lighter than the plastic pots and have handles on them, I hope I'm still going to be able to move the plants around, because one of the problems I have with all my container growing trees is it's not easy to move them around. And I think gradually I might go for these 95 litre pots on pretty much every fruit tree I've got. A couple of them are in larger plastic pots and they're probably going to be okay, but the other size option I've got, which I bought, was this size here, which is 76 litres. The ones I've decided not to go to, I bought some gigantic ones here, which I think were 245 litres, but what I found is they're so big when you unfold them that it would be impossible to ever move them again, and I really want my plants to be movable, so I'm going to have to not use the 245 litre ones because they're just so wide and so heavy. They don't even have handles on them, so it's just not going to be possible, unfortunately, to use them. You could only use them if you're going to leave trees absolutely permanently in one location and never move them, so that's not going to be viable for me. So what I'm going to do is flip the camera around and we'll carry out a repotting on this tree, try and get it to about the height I want it to be in the fabric pot, and then we'll see how easy it is to move. But the one advantage of using this repurposed compost is by putting extra perlite and bark in it. Although it's not the ideal mix for these trees, they probably should have more of a pure soil based mix. It gets so heavy and this mix is a little bit lighter. So let's flip the camera around and get on with the repotting. Okay, so it's not easy to film these videos, because I need to be close enough for you to hear me talk, but if I'm close then obviously I can't get a good shot necessarily of what I'm doing, but you'll probably get the gist of the idea. Let's carry on. First job is to try and get this beast out of the pot, which I don't think will be a major problem. The only problem is the weight of it. You can probably see some roots around the edges, so my root pruning has worked. Let me lift it up if I can. You can see the fresh roots on it, so it's looking pretty healthy. Now what I like to do is just take some of the loose compost off the top. I can see some roots on the surface, we don't want to damage those at all. It's quite obviously I put quite a lot of perlite into this, probably too much from the looks of things. See if we can lift this into the new fabric pot. One of the problems with these fabric pots is they do have a habit of the sides collapsing on them, and it's not easy then to get them central. I've already put some compost in the bottom of the fabric pot to obviously make it a little bit easier to keep the sides out, because they do have a habit of collapsing inwards. So let's start putting some of this compost around the edges. Now I want the tree to sit a bit higher in the pot, so the best way to do that is to lift it a little bit. Let some of the compost go underneath. And then start backfilling around the sides again. The other thing you want to do is make sure you've got the tree as straight as you can reasonably get it in the fabric pot, because I don't like them growing at a bad angle, because they tend to grow lopsided at that point. Now at this point I just like to, I'm about halfway up with the compost around the side, I just like to get a little handful of this granular fertiliser and just spread a little bit down the sides. Won't burn the roots because the roots are nowhere near the edges at the moment. Now again, this has got to come up a little bit higher in the fabric pot. So again, I'm going to lift it, let the soil run underneath it. I probably want the original soil surface around 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches, so about sort of 5 to 8 centimetres below the surface of the pot, because that serves two purposes. Firstly, it allows me to water it and get the water into the pot easily. Secondly, it will allow me after a year or so to top dress it with a little bit of fresh compost with food in it. So I don't want the tree to be level with the top of the pot, as would be the case when you do any repotting basically. Let's get some more compost in it. Now, if I was just buying new bagged compost to redo all my trees, the cost would be absolutely horrendous, with sort of probably 40 or 50 trees to repot this year. But if I can reuse pots of other compost and just, as I said, refreshen the soil with various means, that will probably work fine. Now, this is slightly, mainly because it's growing a bit off centre. When it was new, it slightly tilted the plant, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to straighten it a bit. So although the stem's at a very slight angle, the main stem's fairly straight. And then you just gradually sort of just work the soil down the sides, because you don't want any hollows particularly in your fabric pot. Good 3/4 full now, so I think I might run a little bit more. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more of the granular fertiliser over and just work it into the surface with my fingers. You don't want to go too high on the fertiliser, because you don't want to burn the roots and over fertilise the tree. You don't want it to make too much green growth at the expense of flowers and fruits. Not easy to lift it and give it a shake, but if you can, it's beneficial. Okay, I think we're about done now. I'll flip the video around again so you can see what we've done. Then you can have a look at the other, see how it looks in the pot. Okay, so this is how we look in the pot. This is the kind of level I've got. That will allow me enough to weed it, top dress it, water it without the water running around the sides. So I'm happy with that. The biggest problem I've got is moving it now, because it is a fair old weight, but I can, because it's got the handles, I can drag it along. Should take off this spring, and obviously I won't have disturbed the roots or the plant too much. We should get plenty of flowers. Not sure which section of garden I'm going to put these in yet. Probably the far corner, and I'll probably have all the Asian pears in one area, which will mean moving the mulberries elsewhere, which isn't a problem. But I'm hoping that's proved useful for someone. Might give them a little bit of guidance if they're using fabric pots. I said the one advantage with those handles that they are draggable. I'm not going to water it yet. It does need watering, or should be watered in, but it will be better if I water it after I've moved it, because it's going to be very heavy as it is, and obviously once I've watered it, it's going to be even heavier. So don't forget to water your plants, but I'm going to do that afterwards. So thanks for watching the video, much appreciate it. Please give me a thumbs up, share it if you think it's going to be useful to anybody. Do subscribe to my channel and click on the bell if you like updates on new videos when they come out. Catch up with you all soon. Brett out for now.